The Souls series is notoriously difficult, yet despite this, it remains one of the most popular and beloved series of games in the modern era of gaming. But which game in the series is the hardest? Obviously, you really can't answer this question accurately because difficulty is subjective. However, I believe I can make a case for each of these games and take a look at what each game has done that makes it harder than the rest. A bit of a disclaimer though, I only have experience with 5 out of the 7 games in the Soulsborne umbrella, I guess you could call it. I never played Bloodborne because I never had a PlayStation 4, and Sekiro really wasn't my thing when it came out. I haven't tried it since. Probably should. Starting off with the OG of the series, Demon's Souls. I only have about 4 hours of experience with this game so far, but I think I can safely say what makes this game so difficult is the extreme consequences for dying. In future Souls titles, when you die, you warp back to a bonfire, all of your souls are dropped where you died at, and you lose a little bit of your health until you use a human effigy or an ember. However, in Demon's Souls, there's straight up just no bonfires. You don't have any checkpoints. The only one is at the very beginning of the level. And if you die, you just go all the way back to the very start of the level. And you have to make it all the way to the fucking boss with no checkpoints. And on top of this, when you die, your health bar is cut straight in half. Flat 50%. The only way to get your full health bar back is to either kill the boss of the area or use an item called the Stone of Ephemeral Eyes. I don't know how to say that fucking word. Oh, yeah, and every time you die in the area itself gets harder until you kill the boss. Like, there will be, like, mini bosses fucking spawning, red phantom enemies fucking spawning. They deal more damage. It's like, you just get fucked. Just get fucked. Moving on to Dark Souls 1, the absolute hardest aspect of this game is the clunkiness. This game just feels clunky as fuck. I don't remember it feeling like this back in 2011, but maybe that's because I played it at 30 FPS on a shitty CRT TV in fucking 480p. 10 FPS if you went into Blighttown without taking the Master Key entrance. The movement of the player just seems like really slow. Like, look at this. I'm at a medium equip load, and the medium dodge takes forever, it seems. You also can't sprint while locked on, which I've definitely tried to do just out of pure instinct so many times. And you just end up rolling straight into an enemy swing. If you haven't played this game, but you've played Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring, you've definitely been spoiled by how smooth and responsive the movement is, and will have immense trouble dodging shit in this game to start. Seriously, it's honestly that rough to come back to. Moving on to Dark Souls 2, which is pretty much the bastard child of Dark Souls. If you ever express that you like this game at any corner of the internet, you will get clowned on so fucking hard. Which honestly, it's not even that bad, but anyway, I absolutely have to say the thing that this game does that the other games can't even come close to, and they can't even hold a fucking candle to it, is the enemy placement, the ganks, and the fucking boss run. Enemies in Dark Souls games have always been placed in ways that would be like the most inconvenient for the area that you're in. Like, it's not really a surprise anymore. For instance, the painted guardians on the beams in Orlando, like, they just fucking sit up there and throw fucking knives at you while you're trying to tight rope across these fucking beams on the ceiling. And these silver knights in particular in Orlando, when I first played the game, I straight up could not get past this one fucking knight for so long. They just sit up there. They have great bows too, so when you get hit by one, you get knocked down, which you're more than likely gonna fall off the fucking map. That shit, holy fuck. What I'm saying is this really isn't anything new in the series, but Dark Souls 2 takes this shit to a whole new level of just ass. There's so many areas that force you to walk slowly, yet the enemies in the area are in the same shit you are, but they can run perfectly fine, full fucking speed, they don't give a shit. And half the time, there's always enemies shooting fucking heat-seeking projectiles at you, like fucking magic and shit. It gets a little insane. There's also just straight up more enemies in these areas than usual, so you just get fucking ganked like crazy. It doesn't help that you need to run past all of these enemies to get back to the boss room if you die. Like, who playtested this? Did they playtest this? Cause, nah, this is fucking crazy. Dark Souls 2 caught a lot of flack when it came out, and honestly, I think this is probably a pretty big part of it. Just having to go through 7 circles of fucking hell to get back to fight the fucking lost sinner or some shit. Dark Souls 3 is the game in the series that I probably have played the most, and the experience... Dark Souls 3 is the game in the series that I probably have the most time played in, and from that experience, I have to say the hardest thing is probably the bosses. This was the game where they really started switching up the boss formula, all kinds of bosses with all kinds of new moves and mechanics. They also started having more combo-oriented movesets rather than just fucking swinging their big-ass sword a couple of times at you and then sitting around for 2 seconds. I know it seems pretty short and pretty direct, but that really is it. Like, the hardest part of Dark Souls 3 is the bosses. And it seems pretty obvious, like, the hardest part of a fucking Dark Souls game is the boss fights at the end of the area to test your strength, but... you know, that's how it is. Dark Souls 3's areas are pretty linear. They're not super difficult, except the DLCs. Lastly, we have Elden Ring, and for this one, it's gotta be the flow of combat as well as the way the game scales its areas for difficulty. In Elden Ring, almost every boss has like weirdly timed attacks. They'll charge them up for deceptive amounts of time. Some windups are fast as fuck, and some are just slow as shit. But the actual attack, when they do it, will be insanely fast. Like, almost no time to blindly react to it. Like, you have to know when it happens. You can't just walk in there and just do it blind. Like, you're gonna get fucking smacked up by it. You notice it more in the end game rather than the beginning of the game. Although Godric does it quite a bit on his second phase. And it really gave me some trouble when I first started. I understand it's to throw off vets of the series, because in Dark Souls 3, right, I'm gonna be real, half the time you just dodge off a muscle memory, like when that attack should happen rather than when it does happen. And Elden Ring really changed that up, and it gave me such a hard time. As for the area scaling, look at this shit. Why the fuck is Dragonborough twice as hard as Caelid? Like, not even subjectively, like, this is the objective, like, scaling that the game does for the areas, like, internally. Why the fuck is Dragonborough twice as hard as Caelid? They're literally connected to each other. Not even by, like, a tunnel or a boss. Like, the landscape blends into it like a fucking Minecraft biome or some shit. Like, they're literally right next to each other. Why is it harder? It's... Dragonborough's harder than fucking Farum Mazula, whatever the fuck you call it. Like, how? Like, how is that even... I don't understand. That's so weird. This, though, this right here, this doesn't surprise me. I'm not surprised at all by this one. Back to the original question. Which game, considering all of this, is the hardest one? Well, you might want to sit down. You're not going to believe this one. This is crazy. But the hardest one in the fucking whole series is whichever one you decide to play first. Yep, that's it. Got 'em. In all seriousness, though, being completely new to this series will make whichever game you start with the hardest one. Like, that is the answer. There is no definitive answer, but what I believe is whichever one the hardest one could be fucking Dark Souls 2 for you. You know what I mean? Like, it could be the hardest one, which Dark Souls 2, when it came out, was objectively easier than Dark Souls 1. Like, everyone fucking said it was easier. I'm gonna keep it real. That this is gonna completely void the entire video at this point. But Sekiro might be the fucking hardest one in the entire series. I ain't gonna lie.